Is the new page puncher's Damian Wayne the boy wonder we've been waiting for? More importantly, how would he look with some head swaps? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Starting with the packaging, and Damian comes in one of those all-plastic page puncher's clamshells. The blister, of course, is to accommodate that comic book which makes up the back. In that regard, it's like an old-school Toy Biz Marvel Legends. I still think it's a mistake to put the name of the toy line on the bottom. Again, for casual shoppers who don't live on the internet like us collectors, it's just harder to find. That said, if you are looking in store, here's the UPC. Otherwise, and for packaging, I'm giving Damian 4 points. Moving on to presentation, and Damian stands at 6 1/8 inches, or about 15.5 centimeters, putting him in the same basic ballpark as Rebirth and Infinite Frontier. That's scarcely surprising though, as there is a lot of reuse between these two figures. They've got the same upper arms, the same legs, and the same feet. The downside of the figure coming with a comic is that we can unfortunately compare the two, and therefore see that this isn't quite as accurate as it could be. Definitely a lot more details than there were in the comic. Even so, it doesn't look bad. I'm also just now realizing this is a cuff, so in that case the whole arm is reused. Still, we do get this really nice new torso. Not only has it been individually sculpted to match that Robin design, it's even been given some shading, including a touch of paint in the seam lines. Additionally, the utility belt's accurate, and then looking at the head, this is quite frankly a fantastic representation of Frank Quitely's artwork. While I do love the attitude and especially the hair of the Capullo era Damian, this face sculpt fits in a lot better with the rest of my collection, and I have a feeling this might be my go-to Damian moving forward. There's a bit of blue in the hair to bring out the highlights, and a wired cape that I'll be talking more about in Playability, including a wired hood. The boots might be wrong and the legs might have a bit extra detail, but this is still a very solid figure. I'm very impressed with not just the sculpting of the new pieces, but also the painted detail, and this has got to be the best mass market Damian head I have ever seen. For presentation, I'm giving Robin 4 points. Moving on to posability, and while there are some things that frustrate me, I am overall fairly impressed. Naturally, Damian's head is on a dumbbell joint. He can look up this high, which is just fantastic, and can look this far down. His tilt is in direct proportion to his sass, and of course he gets all the way around. Moving down, Damian can raise his arms over 90 degrees, a little bit of forward and back with a rotator cuff, and then moving down the arm we got bicep swivel, perfectly bent double jointed elbows, and wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up and down or side to side. Moving to the middle, and his entire torso is a rubber overlay with what I imagine is a dumbbell joint or just a ball joint inside. That being the case, he can arch back this far, which is pretty good, and he can hunch forward this far, which admittedly is better than we sometimes see with the diaphragm. We do also still get tilt and twist. Below the utility belt, and because his legs are smaller, he actually has ball jointed hips. Those can kick just under 90 degrees, but as usual still do a perfect split. There isn't a whole lot of twist in there, but a little. And then moving down, his double jointed knees have a perfect bend. He's also got toe articulation and ankle balls under the high tops that can swivel, hinge, and like Damian, from a bloodthirsty assassin to a slightly less bloodthirsty vigilante, pivot. Just like with Infinite Frontier, I'm very impressed with things like the bicep swivel and double jointed elbows. The diaphragm joint might be limited, but not bad. My biggest frustration is just how frequently his legs pop off. That said, and for posability, I'm giving Damian 4 points. Moving on to playability, and while I do feel mostly positive, I am a little bit conflicted. First things first, and of course he comes with a trading card and a figure stand. Not sure why they ditched the yellow of the comic color for white, and while I normally let you read these on your own, I just want to read this one. While Batman has been known to hide his feelings, Damian Wayne would be a hard son for even the most affectionate father to love. Dang! Headstrong, arrogant, and more than a little condescending, that's just a regular teenager. I'm not saying Damian isn't a handful, but geesh. As for accessories, Damian comes with this sword, very nice bright silver and sharp looking edge, as well as some nice sculpted and painted detail for the handle. If it seems familiar, that's because it's the same one that came with Infinite Frontier. He can hold it in his right hand, but that's actually one of my criticisms. I really wish he would have come with some other hands as well, at the very least in all alternate accessory holding left hand and an alternate right fist. You could always have Carrie Kelly lend a hand. I suggest her over Dick Grayson because the greens are a better match, but even then there is still a notable difference. Even so, just that small option adds so much. If you're gonna do it though, you will need to use some heat. Damian does come with the busted mask of Professor Pig. I imagine if you wanted to, you could use this to make a custom, but hey, since he is in the comic, hopefully we will get him as a figure. And hopefully not in a 2-pack where we're expected to buy this Damian all over again. Cool as this is though, it's hard not to wish we would have gotten those extra hands. What we did get is another amazing wired cape. Unlike the Huntress we just looked at, there actually is a wire in the bottom of this one. This creates even more cool display opportunities, but the coolest part is that he's also been given a hood, and that's also been wired. The combination of wired hood and cape adds so much value. The main thing I want to talk about is the comic. The fact that they're giving us a reprint of an existing issue instead of just doing their own thing is something I've been asking for forever. It's a wonderful way of getting new collectors into the source material and introducing people to more obscure characters. Oh hey look, an ad for the Batman Forever wave. Where's Dr. Chase Meridian? But Playability is more than just capes, comics, and callbacks. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. Starting out with a non-head swappable version of Damian, and here's the Court of Owls version by Mattel. As for the rest of the Bat family, and here's Amazon exclusive and Rebirth versions of Tim Drake. I chose the Amazon version because that's what he was wearing in that Battle for the Cowl Batman Reborn era. Otherwise, and here we have Cassandra Cain Batgirl, DC Essentials, the new 52 versions of the Red Hood. I chose DC Essentials because again, that's what he was wearing at the time. This brings us to Dick Grayson and the Better Than Batman and Titans Wave versions of Nightwing. But for the most important comparison, and here's Dick Grayson as Batman. For Damian's father, however, and here's 3 Jokers and Rebirth versions of Batman, blue and gray and black and gray versions of Hush, blue and gray and black and gray versions of Nightfall, and for a couple of video game versions, Arkham Knight and Arkham City. For just a good basic Bat family lineup though, and I think we have a winner. In terms of villains though, and a Batman Reborn Robin is a wonderful opportunity to bring out the Battle for the Cowl Two-Face as Batman, but for the arch nemesis of all Robins, and here's Arkham Origins and Rebirth versions of Deathstroke. On that note, McFarlane reissued this figure as a Page Punchers with an alternate unmasked head, but I don't have any plans of reviewing him at this time. The unmasked head would be cool, but I'm pretty happy with this. That said, and for a villain with one of the most important connections to Damian, here's Arkham City Ra's al Ghul. For a relative scale comparison, here's Damian with Pete the Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. You know, seeing you makes me wonder if I have any kids I don't know about. You always have me, Mr. Stark. You want me to take care of him? Robin, no. Of course, I know what you want to see are some head swaps. First up, and it only makes sense to start with DC Rebirth, this head on this body looks great. It's just so much better proportioned. For context, just look at him lined up with the rest of the Bat family. Side by side, you can really see the difference the size of a head can make. Granted, I love the hair on this head. If you could put the Rebirth hair on the Page Puncher's head, put the whole thing on this body, and give it a wired cape, that would probably be my ultimate Damian. Next up is Infinite Frontier. I'm surprised at how much I like this. The Infinite Frontier head's a bit cartoonish for my taste, so to me this balances out way better. Side by side, and you can really tell. Almost like it's straight out of Teen Titans Go. While I'm here, since I didn't have him at the time, here's Infinite Frontier Damian with Infinite Frontier Tim Drake. I don't care what the box says, this is Infinite Frontier. No, way too much chin. Also, since I get a lot of requests for head swaps between Rebirth and Infinite Frontier, here you go. Strictly speaking, I did do this in the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh video, but it just makes more sense to do it again here. Lastly, and here we have Dick Grayson. It obviously doesn't match Dick's hair or mask, nor do the skin tones match, but I will say this head on this body is a bit more proportionate. Putting them side by side, you can really see what I mean. Once again, neither the skin tones nor style match, but this doesn't look half bad. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you would like to see Vampire Damian, but it is spooky season, so he'll be getting his own review. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. This is definitely my new favorite Damian figure, and I'm really excited with what McFarlane's doing with the comics. I continue to be impressed with the wired capes and now hoods, and while the Professor Pig mask is cool, what the figure really needed was some extra hands. For playability, I'm giving Damian 4 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Page Puncher's Damian Damian retails for $24.99. At just $2 more than a standard release, I do feel like the value is there. The new tooling is solid, and I love the wired hood and cape, and even if he doesn't have the accessories I would have wanted, he does still have accessories. Moreover, this is the happiest I've ever been with a comic book that's been offered. So happy, in fact, that for price, I'm giving Damian 5 points, averaging out to a grand total of 4.2 out of 5. For more Robin-related videos, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.